taco night, and the best happy hour in town, buy one, get one for 1 cent. And twilight dinners, 2 for $25 from 4 to 5:30. Don't forget their famous shankaritas and the lobster mac that'll keep you coming back. It's Fish Shack.
Oh, you didn't know? You better call somebody! And if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for ya! Ed Dean. Woo! All right, we continue to move along. This is the Ed Dean Radio Show. My good friend, political commentator, author. Go to check out a look at his website, frostplan.com. And he's also elected school board member, for those of you out of the Treasure Coast along the Indian River County, my good friend, Shawn Frost. What are you writing here, man? I can't read all these numbers here, man.
Oh, okay. Well, it's always good to be here with you.
Yeah, it's always good to have you on. Okay, so let me go back. I had a friend of mine, a state legislator, called me up because every week I do what we call the Dean's List. It's about the winners and losers of the week. And I pretty much was agreeing with, hold on, maybe we pull this up here. This was State Representative Marlene O'Toole. Mm-hmm. She is the House Education Chair in Florida. She's a Republican. Yep. And I don't know if she was ticked off or whatever, but she basically told parents if they want to opt out, there's this whole opt-out movement. If you want to opt out of state testing, then send your kids to private schools. And so I said she's exactly right. By the way, I'm a huge advocate of school choice. Right. I'm a huge advocate of private schools. And I said the opt-out movement is a joke. If you're dissatisfied, then you change the law, which could be changed, or you make it more affordable for school choice, and then don't have all the implementations of Common Core. Am I right or wrong on the opt-out movement here? Because I don't support it.
Yeah, well, I don't support it either, but for different reasons. Before I go too into it, I understand, trust me, as a parent, I understand the frustration. There is too much testing. However, while I agree with their strategy of resisting, I disagree with the tactic of opting out because it hurts the school districts.
Hold on, before we get into further, and let me explain this. Explain in English, in layman's terms, and I mean I can do it, but since you're here, explain to the audience going, what's this opt-out movement? What's going on here? Explain what this was all about.
Well, what the opt-out movement is, as you know, I like to say that it's a perfectly natural overreaction to the over-testing. And that's what it is. It really, to my mind, it's an overreaction. And I think that's what Chair O'Toole was trying to encapsulate.
Okay, let's set this up. Explain, how long ago did this start?
I would say about a year ago at least.
Okay. Parents were angry with the over-testing.
Yes.
That was it, just the over-testing, right?
Well, there are different factions of it. Some are against, they see it as an extension of the Common Core, and some are against just the over-testing in general.
Okay, but the testing, from what I understand, it was about 101 tests per year that students had to take, correct?
Well, it depends on the district. Like in my district, due to the legislation that was passed a few years ago, we were required to create LCAs, locally created assessments.
Right.
And essentially that means that we had about a little over 120 tests that were basically made up so that we could assign credits to the teachers.
So it dropped. You cut them in half?
Well, we did. And in fact...
Down to how many?
Well, there was the Fewer Better Test Act last year, House Bill 769, which basically said that a student could be tested no more than 5% of the total time should be spent on tests.
So that's about 40-something.
45 hours.
45 hours.
Yeah. And, I was last week and again, I don't speak for the school district of Indian River County. I'm not their spokesman. So moving forward, because votes go different ways. Last week, we actually did improve our testing calendar because we were surprised to learn that there was one situation in which a student was being tested 44.8 hours per year. And those of us who fought for the 5% last year thought that it was too high. We thought actually what would be better is about 2%.
What I'm getting at, the hours for testing have been cut.
They have.
But yet that's not satisfying the parents out there.
No, and that's the thing that I think that their frustration is real, and it comes from a good place. Nobody wants their kids to be tested to death, and we don't want to turn teachers into test administrators, right? But the same thing is, you have to remember, these tests have made us better. They've made the state of Florida education system better.
Why are parents looking to opt out? It's almost like, and I don't want to be rude, it's like I'm taking my marbles and I'm going home instead of trying to win. I mean, even with the testing being cut in half, and this is the reason why I don't support the opt-out movement, because if you don't like the way testing is going on, then as you pointed out, change it from within the local area, elect a new school board member, or try to rationalize some sort of new ordinance here. If that doesn't work, then petition your state house, your state senate. I don't think they've done all this.
I agree, and I think that's the thing, right? Tallahassee acts when local districts don't. That's one of the axioms I live by.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a good one. That's right.
Yeah, well, it's I'm the political realist, and as soon as I got in office, I realized that a lot of the legislation we're unhappy with is a result of districts that didn't do the right thing at the right time. So, they view all of this testing as being state mandated, and there are these pushes, where superintendents try to pass this along, but it becomes incumbent upon school board members to say, hey, not all this testing is state mandated. Not all of it is necessary. So let me give you an example. I'm also a dad. As you know, you met my family. My kids score 5s on all the standardized tests, right?
Out of what?
Out of 5.
Oh, okay.
Right? They score at the top.
That's the highest is a 5.
The highest is a 5. And my daughter, she literally scored a perfect on the reading test. Now, I'm not just bragging here. I'm setting up an important fact. They also are now required to take benchmarks for progress monitoring every quarter, essentially 4 times a year. They take a pre-test for the pre-test to know how they'll do on the final test. Yeah, that's the frustration parents feel. That's the frustrations out that parents feel. Now, what's little known is that they're no longer required to progress monitor students that score 4 and 5, only 3 and below. Students who are at risk.
Well, that would sound fine, right? If they're passing 4 and 5, why do you need to continually monitor them?
Right, absolutely. Why not give them enrichment activities like learning the Constitution or doing a science fair project?
Or getting off early from school, go to play video games.
Yeah, well, they'd love that, but no, as an educator, I think they need to be learning, right? That's the whole purpose of the public school system, is preparing career and college-ready students, or those who can actually survive in the military. So there's this over-testing, but not all of it is necessary, and not all of it is state mandated. And I think the sooner that districts become honest about this, the sooner it can be fixed.
What is it? I mean, when you have a parent tell you, "Hey, I'm not happy the way things are going," I know you quite well. You listen to them. You sit back and go, "Hey, listen, let me take your concerns to the school board meeting that night." Yep. Parents, there are a lot of parents coming up. I mean, you travel throughout the state, by the way.
I do.
Are there a lot of parents coming up to these meetings, to school board meetings as well, saying, "Listen, we're not happy with the testing," but are they saying lower the testing, or are they all saying, "Well, we don't matter if it lowers the testing or not. We're just going to opt out of our kids, testing to see where they stand"? Where's the movement going right now?
Well, it seems as though the movement is just, as you say, an all or nothing. So it's basically the nuclear option of we're going to, and some of them do it the right way. They do it respectfully. Either they keep their student home on test day, or they sit down and they break the seal on their test and they don't do anything.
If they keep the kid home on the day of testing, and this is what I'm getting at, Shawn. So if they keep he or she home, that means that they don't get graded properly, and they don't pass into the next grade. Am I right or wrong on that?
As far as the next grade, I'm not sure. I think that they can be. It depends.
That's what I don't get.
Well, on 3rd grade or 10th grade, I think that they can be retained, or 8th grade. However, as far as this goes, another thing is, yes, it will affect their ability to graduate. It may affect their ability to get into a college. But another thing to think about is, right, we need to be able to compare school districts. We need to know that school districts are doing their job. We need to know that our elected school board members are doing their job, and the superintendent is doing his.
Is it kind of? And I don't want to use this as the blanket of this, but I mean, do we put a blanket on our children because the kid could be doing much better, but if they're not, we use the opt out as an excuse for them not to be tested. That's what I'm getting at.
I think that's the ultimate injustice in all this, is that not every kid is like my kid, right? They're not necessarily going to succeed on their own. They may need this evaluation, right? Some of these tests, especially the benchmarks, are formative. Right? There are formative tests and summative tests. Summative test says, "Hey, you can do everything that's asked of you." Formative says, "Well, what can't you do? Or what are you still working on? What are you still struggling with?" So the real injustice would be if a parent has a student that is struggling or may not be mastering particular pieces of the curriculum, and they just opt them out. We never know that. We can't get that student the help they need.
I had a certain state legislator call me, and she and I are friends, and she goes, and this individual is not a fan of the testing. I agree with her. She's not a fan of the Common Core. But she's like, how could you put that one? I said, listen, I wasn't addressing more of Representative O'Toole's, she herself. I said what it was representing was more that she's exactly right, that if you don't like it, I think she could have gone further. That's the reason why I wrote the article, that if you don't like it, then you send your children to a public school. And of course, the representative mentioned it to me. She goes, well, not everybody can afford to send their kid to public. I agree. But if you read my article, which I don't think she read it all the way, understood it, the whole point that I was getting at was that you got to, listen, if you've exhausted all the avenues there, then I would go along with the opt-out movement.
Right.
But they haven't done it. You've got to change the laws, and they start locally here. And it seems like parents, if you can't get it done, then you vote he or she out of office. That's how you do it.
Well, and I think that speaks to the whole issue here, Ed, is that if you have something that's not working for your student, first of all, you have to be an advocate for that student rather than just, and I understand the sentiment behind opting out. I understand the frustration behind it.
I understand.
But it's not the right tactic. It's like, again, political realism. I was asked to support bills that just basically said, get rid of the Common Core last session. Those bills were floor bills, and they had nothing, they had zero chance of making it happen, right?
Yeah.
I'm here to win.
It was a great title, but nobody knew it.
Exactly. Well, and that's the thing. I'm here to win the war on Common Core, and that means, it's about, like, we supported 7069, the fewer better tests bill last session, because that's the right thing. And it came out of committee, and it had a chance of being passed. Now, these parents can be as frustrated as they want. They can show up in their shirts, and they're going to make waves, but they're not going to move the ball, other than the conversations we're being had now, right?
Our school is, as I say, you travel throughout the state. Yeah. Is the local school board listening when it comes out to the opt-out movement? Are local school boards, the state, are they listening to over-testing, the opt-out movement?
I think particularly your legislators. I know that President Gates and Senator John Lake, who's also the chair,
right.
He's the chair of the pre-K-12 committee over there in the Senate. They're listening, and I think that they're trying to get the testing right. You saw that with the testing bill last session. It got better. It's just not.
Is it going too slow?
Well, I think that
the process.
It's like anything, right? You're going to have extremes on both sides. You're going to have.
But are local school boards listening? What do you think?
I think for the most part they are. And I think that those who were elected in the last cycle in 2014 are leading the charge on this, because they were elected with the mandate, hey, fix it. So you see school board members like Erica Donald, Ted Lichter over there in Collier County,
right.
They're moving the ball. You're seeing Bridget Ziegler over in Sarasota, she's moving the ball. We're all listening. But the thing is it doesn't do as much good to listen if we can't get to the vote. So I think this next election cycle is going to be really important.
I want to talk about a few other but education reforms here in a few moments. And do we need to go with the education commissioner? I know there's a state rep out there who's talking about it, and we'll talk about that here in a few moments. Shawn Frost here on the Ed Dean Radio Show. The email address, ed@eddean.com, ed@eddean.com, or this opt-out, Common Core, all this nonsense. More on the other side. This is the Ed Dean Radio Show.
Mr. Picky's going to Antwerp.